We now start the press conference by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Iwaya. Minister, please.
Hello, the press corps of Kasumigaseki. I have been appointed for Minister Iwaya. I explicit your continued cooperation. At the outset, I would like to greet you. I hope you will allow me to do that. About 18 years ago, I served the position of State Minister of Foreign Affairs, and afterwards, I have been serving as Defense Minister. Throughout consistently, I have been engaged in the diplomacy and security matters. This time around, I feel so much humbled that I have been given the position of Foreign Minister, which have been served by my great senior coming from the same home region, Mr. Shigemitsu. Once again, I really feel humbled by it. Going forward, I ask for your continued guidances and cooperation once again. First of all, yesterday, Prime Minister Ishiba instructed me to base my work based on the past accomplishments of Japanese diplomacy and develop it and make it more fulfilling. Needless to say, continuity and consistency are the essence of diplomacy. My predecessor is Ms. Kamikawa, and based on the firm accomplishments of the predecessors within the given ever-changing international situation, I would contribute to, first of all, safeguarding the life and property of Japanese people and taking advantage of the Japanese diplomacy's accomplishments. I will contribute to the peace and prosperity international community. Well, currently, Japan is faced with the severest and most complex security situation ever since the end of World War II. And current international order is being challenged. Under these international circumstances, I would like to once again reiterate basic policy of Japanese diplomacy. First, Japan-US alliance has reached a highest ground ever. This continues to be the foundation of Japanese diplomacy and security policy going ahead. Therefore, this Japan-US alliance will be further deepened, and its deterrence and responding capability will be reinforced further. Second is the work toward realizing FOIP, free and open Indo-Pacific, in cooperation with the United States, Korea, Australia, India, ASEAN, and Europe. We will work toward maintaining and strengthening rule-based and the rule of law-based free and open international order. Also, Japan-Korea relationship had greatly improved thanks to the trusting relationship developed by former Prime Minister Kishida and President Yoon. And also in August last year, historic Camp David leaders meeting had taken place in the United States, which had further pushed forward the Japan-US ROK cooperation, and I will work firmly at that. And of course, important neighbor of us, China, we would strengthen further the dialogue. And third, currently the international community is faced with a great division and confrontation. Therefore, continuing the cooperation within G7 is of course important. I will work on it, and also further attentively, the cooperation will go on with countries in Global South. And I will lead the strengthening and the rebuilding of the international society's order. In order to roll out such a kind of diplomacy, we have to have a good human resources system, financial base, DX, and also the promotion further of the work style reform as well. In other words, it's essential to drastically strengthen the diplomatic implementation system in order for our officials to exert their capability to the utmost, and they can unitedly work toward diplomatic challenges. I will work toward building a enabling environment for that. APEC ministerial meeting, G7 foreign ministers meeting, and many other international conferences are being planned. And you know that the 2+2 situation and sessions are held with many countries, so taking advantage of various different diplomatic opportunities. I will build the human-to-human relationship with my counterpart so that presence of Japan and presence of Japanese diplomacy will be exhibited more to the rest of the world. If we fail in the diplomacy, it will end up in the wrong management of the country. As a foreign minister of Japan, I would work at it in good faith, remembering the word that the sincerity can move heaven. With this in mind, I will work hard. I continue to ask for your guidances and cooperation as we go ahead. Thank you. Thank you for coming once again.
Please raise your hand if you have any questions. If you're designated to approach the microphone, state your name and affiliation and start your question. First question, Nikkei, Noda-san, please. Nikkei, Baba speaking. Great to meet you. So the Asia version of the NATO and the sharing of the nuclear capability that I'd like to ask. The Prime Minister Ishiba have addressed in his election campaign during LPD that there's idea of the Asia version of NATO and the need for the sharing of the nuclear capability. And Japan being exercising the collective defense rights, and that may involve in the revision of the constitution. There might be some resentment against the idea, and what is your idea?
So I would like to answer your question with regard to the Asian version of NATO. Well, as I said, the environment surrounding Japan is the severest since the end of World War II. That's what I said. First of all, amongst the allies and the like-minded countries, it's important to weave the network organically and multi-layered way further. I think that is the foremost thing that we need to tackle. And as a result of that, deterrence capability can be heightened and enhanced. You asked me about the Asian version of NATO. Of course, this is one of the ideas that can be thought going forward, but we need to spend time from a medium to long-term point of view in considering this matter. And also, as far as the government is concerned, as we have been saying, in terms of the current constitution, exercising of right to collective defense with the objective to defend other countries is not allowed. That is the thought of the government. And also in the Indo-Pacific region, we are a bit different from Europe, that there are many countries involved who have different development, political and economic regime, and security policy. There are so many variations there, and those points also need to be taken into account. Therefore, given those consideration points, it's very difficult to establish immediately in Asia the organization which affords mutual defense obligation. I must say that it is very difficult. Therefore, turning our eyes to the future as one of the vision going ahead, this is a challenge that need to be considered from a medium to long-term point of view. For the time being, as I said to you at the very outset, we will look toward the realization of a framework of FOIP, free and open, in the Pacific, looking at the security relationship and situations with many countries, and we would like to build on that firmly. Therefore, this kind of idea is not targeted toward any country. It's not like that at all. The future ideal state will be that Indo-Pacific and Asia as an entirety, no country will be excluded in the security so that the cooperation can be built firmly. That is the most desirable state as I see it. Thank you.
Ryukyu, newspaper, Saito-san, please. Mr. Simple, Saito speaking, regard to the status of forces agreement, and what particular point is considered an issue in your opinion, Minister, and also what part of the SOF in its revision, and at this moment, in revising the status of forces agreement, are there anything decided, or is there something that in your mind? And effective as of the 1st of October, the Liberty system is now being revised. The U.S. versus in Japan, and would you consider that is effective enough? If not, then would you ask for the stricter measures that foreign ministry will ask for?
With regard to SOFA, as you may know well, thus far, in accordance with the nature of the matter that needs to be addressed, through taking the most appropriate measures effectively and agile manner, one by one, concrete issues have been responded to. The environment issue is the immediate one. The complementary additional agreement has been compiled, and making on-site visit have become possible, inspection as well. So we need to build on that as well. And also with regard to the revision of the agreement, from the viewpoint of strengthening the deterrence and response capability of Japan-US alliance and strengthen its resilience and sustainability between two countries, there are certain things that need to be considered, I know. Therefore, based on the thought of our Prime Minister, the government will think about what responses will be desirable and consideration will ensue. Also, about the Liberty system. In July this year, the commander of U.S. forces in Japan had announced the revision and review of Liberty system. And as of the October the 1st, the newly revised system had begun in its operation. So this should be effectively complied with and honored. So under the reviewed system, all the services, military persons belonging to U.S. forces in Japan from 1 a.m. to 1 a.m. On the same day, prohibition will be made by taking beverages outside of the base, except for the on-house and hotel. And also supervisory responsibility of commanders will be strengthened, and prohibition will be made to enter into the establishment which offers liquor outside of the base. So I hope this will be executed effectively, and I'm sure that that will lead to the prevention of the incidents in future. Therefore, MOFA will continue to ask for all these to the U.S. Thank you.
Kyoto Nishiyama-san, please. Kyoto Nishiyama speaking. Regarding the Asia version of NATO, there are some follow-up questions. And you mentioned that no particular country is not going to be excluded. However, the Asia version of NATO is prepared against China, and assuming that there are some mutual defense obligation to be enacted among the Australia or other countries. And wouldn't that the idea of the Asian version of NATO? And also there were article provided by the Prime Minister Ishiba the other day that there has to be some discussion to be made, and including the nuclear sharing. And are you going to revise the idea of the basic principle on ban on nuclear?
Yes, once again, on the Asian version of NATO, I have already shared with you our thought. So I would avoid overlapping. But first of all, instead of immediately addressing this issue, it would be situated as something to be considered from a medium to long-term point of view. That is how we frame the issue. As for the idea of Asian version of NATO, it's not targeted at any certain specific country. I hope no misunderstanding will be given on this point. We are looking at the stability of East Asia, which will lead to the stability of the entire world. Throughout the world, there are so many conflicts flaring up. So we are focused on the East Asia, where tension needs to be eased, aiming for the peace. That is the most important point. And for that, we have to think about what we should do. And there are so many ideas out there, and one of the idea is the Asian version of NATO. This is how I see the situation. And also, one more question. What was it? About the nuclear, right? Yeah, in the process of a presidential election of LDP, the candidates made a contribution to a certain publication, but government would like to refrain from making comment on that. But having said that, if I may continue, as a government, we have been consistently saying that we uphold the three non-nuclear policy in terms of the policy. Therefore, there is no thinking about reviewing this principle. But as a general discussion, I would say that depending on the situation of the time, international situation of the time, there are so many kinds of national debates that can be held, and that is, of course, natural. As far as we are concerned, thinking about the security situation surrounding Japan at this time, the maintaining and strengthening nuclear deterrence is very important. Concretely, the reliability of extended deterrence of the United States need to be maintained and strengthened because this is essential. Thank you.
Next question, Satomi-san of Asahi Shimbun, please. Satomi of Asahi Shimbun, congratulations. And now, regarding Japan-China relations, I'd like to ask, the President Ishiba mentioned in his book that active security policy will have to be conducted under the proactive diplomacy. And last night, and just a few minutes ago, that Minister Iwaya said that the dialogue will be enhanced, and that is coincides with the Prime Minister's remarks. However, the China is really adventurous, and therefore, how you're going to face up with China, and what is your idea about the China diplomacy going forward? At the same time, mutual visits of ministerial levels at the China and Japan would be appreciated.
Yes, between Japan and China, there are so many outstanding issues and challenges, but at the same time, there are so many possibilities and potentials because Japan and China are both a major country holding an important responsibility jointly for achieving peace and prosperity for this region and the entire international community. You know that between China and Japan, we will promote comprehensively the mutually beneficial relationship based on the common strategic interests. That is a position that we come back to. So what we need to assert will be asserted. And as a major country, we seek China to behave responsibly based on that notion where cooperation can be made, cooperation will continue. We hope to mutually work toward building a constructive and stable relationship. Also, well, as early as possible, I really hope that I could meet with Mr. Wang Yi, Foreign Minister of China. At this time, nothing has been decided, but I really hope that I will be able to accumulate frank exchanges and dialogue with my counterpart, Mr. Wang Yi of China. Of course, there are so many problems and challenges pending, but we do have a potential as well. So, as I said, we hope that we can have a constructive and stable relationship to be built, which is a mutually beneficial relationship based on the common strategic interest. Thank you.
Ms. Zhang of China Daily, please. Ms. Zhang, please.
Jiang Yuqing from China Daily. China's top diplomat Wang Yi recently expressed the hope that Japan will adopt an objective and accurate understanding of China, pursue a positive and rational policy toward China, and put into practice the commitment to fully advancing the strategic and mutually beneficial relationship. So, what concrete moves will the new Japanese government take in response to such hopes?
Yes, between Japan and China, as I said to you before, between two leaders, promotion comprehensively of a strategic mutually beneficial relationship and building a constructive and stable relationship has been reaffirmed for the major direction going ahead. And the Foreign Minister Wang Yi of China, as you had mentioned, said that he is committed to and execute concretely, displaying the building of mutually beneficial strategic relationship. In order to make that happen, I'm willing to accumulate a dialogue with my counterpart. Thank you.
This is Yi speaking about Nippo. And I'd like to ask about the Japan-South Korea relation policy of Ishiba administration. The administration Kishida and also the President Yi had a personal relationship trying to improve the relation between Japan and South Korea. And there are diverse issues in global society, and we recognize each other partner. And so far, Prime Minister Kishida has worked to improve the relations. But what is the policy under the new administration, please?
Well, looking at the Japan-ROK relationship, this is a very important bilateral relationship. For Japan and Korea to work together is, of course, mutually beneficial, and not only that, in this stability and prosperity of East Asia as a whole, it will be beneficial. That's my firm belief that I have. Of course, at one time, there has been a very difficult period between Japan and ROK. However, as you had pointed out, with President Yoon and Prime Minister Kishida, Japan-ROK relationship have been repaired in a dramatic way. Therefore, this needs to be steadily advanced toward the future, and this is what I'm going to do. Next year, it marks the 60th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic relationship, so further make it more strong and broad-based relationship between the two countries is something that I would like to work toward. When I was a defense minister, a radar blocking incident had occurred. However, we overcame that, and exchanges and cooperation between the authorities of Japan and ROK became possible. Therefore, two countries at very various different levels, we hope to strengthen our relationship. And also, Japan-US ROK cooperation will be essential for the peace and stability of the region. So I would like to also work at it to strengthen it further. Thank you.
Miyano-san of the Chuguk Shimbun, please. Miyano of Chugoku Shimbun, congratulations. Well, the former Prime Minister Kishida said, highly evaluated the nuclear ban treaty as a very important treaty, considered as one of the exits to the world free from nuclear forces. And what is your assessment to this treaty? And Prime Minister Ishiba, in his interview given to the Chugoku Shimbun, that one of the options for Japan is to join as an observer to the COP meeting of the NBT. And government has mentioned that Japan should join as an observer and so forth. And would you consider joining as observer, or would you think about the signatory and the ratification of the treaty? What do you think?
With regard to the nuclear weapon ban treaty, it is an important treaty that will lead us to the exit of a world without nuclear weapons. In the final analysis, I really hope sincerely that the world will become the world without nuclear weapon, really. However, we have to look at the reality, look at the security. As you know, in this treaty, no nuclear weapon states take part in this treaty. And also, we are hoping for reaching the exit, but the pathway leading to that has not been set firmly. That is a reality. I made a remark about nuclear deterrence, and nuclear deterrence is also we need to tackle at this time. That is a current reality. As we have been saying repeatedly, there is a nuclear weapon states and no non-nuclear weapon states, and we would like to bridge between the two so that we can build the momentum for building the world without nuclear weapons. That is a role incumbent upon Japan. With this direction, we would like to work toward it. You pointed out the observer status participation, but as a government as a whole, we would think about what would be our desirable responses. We will continue seriously considering it. At this time, I cannot say anything more than that. I hope you could understand that point. Thank you.
Next question, please. Mr. Azahari of Pan Orient News, please.
Thank you, Khalil Azhari, Pan Orient News. Congratulations on your new position, Minister. And my question is about the West Asia, which is lacking the stability and security that is spreading in East Asia. So would Japan take more proactive policy to help ending the expanding war Israel is launching and waging in West Asia against mostly civilian targets in Palestine and in Lebanon? Thank you.
With regard to the situation in Middle East, we have a serious concern over it. Local time, October the 1st, Iran vis-a-vis Israel had waged a large-scale attack using ballistic missile. Of course, this attack would worsen even further the situation in Middle East. And we are deeply concerned about it. And we criticize with the strongest word this escalation within Middle East. We look for the stability, and that is most very important for Japan, of course. Therefore, all the stakeholders out there, we call upon the calming down of the current situation. And also, as for the protection of Japanese nationals locally living there, we will take every measure possible to protect them. I would reiterate my determination on it. But at any rate, in the situation in Middle East, it is worsening, but we need to put a stop to it, definitely, by all means. Through those conflicts and through this fighting and combat, many of the civilians have lost their lives, and we are gravely concerned about it. Therefore, as far as Japan is concerned, we will remain in cooperation with the international community and work so that no worsening of the situation will be there, and seek immediate ceasefire. And also, vis-à-vis all the related parties, in order to prevent the sacrifice of the civilian people, we will call upon them to take immediately the measures necessary. And besides, in compliance with international law, such as international humanitarian law, we ask for the self-restraint to the maximum extent, avoiding the escalation, and ask for the diplomatic resolution in good faith. Thank you.
This is a Tribune News. Sushiro is my name, and congratulations for your appointment. And as it's mentioned earlier, in regard to Middle East, at the same time, the war in Ukraine and Russia, something that I would like to ask, is Japan, does Japan have new ideas to bring an end to this long-lasting the war? And Asian version of a NATO from Indonesia, Indonesia will endorse that, and that is an excellent idea.
With regard to the aggression against Ukraine, it really is the reckless deed that shakes the very foundation of international order. The security of Europe and security of Indo-Pacific is now inseparable. Be it anywhere, the attempt to change the status quo unilaterally by force is unacceptable. Therefore, for the sake of peace and the security of the international community, we take it as our own problem. And we have been addressing this issue, trying to have Russia stop the aggression and to realize fair and lasting peace as early as possible in Ukraine. And we've been seriously tackling this issue in this manner. However, the fighting is not stopping at all. As far as we are concerned, the sanctions against Russia and support to Ukraine will continue very strongly in cooperation with the international community as soon as possible in order to have a fair and lasting peace to come back in Ukraine. Japanese government will work at its best on this.
Next question from AFP, please. AFP, I am Ozawa. Now, in regard to the whale hunting, I'd like to ask. Whale hunting. Well, Sea Shepherd Paul Watterson, founder, says that in the Greenland, in the sea territory of Finland, that now he's in the litigation, and Japan, how it is negotiating with the court over there, and what is your position in regard to the whale hunting?
Well, with regard to your question, I have not gained a full grasp of the information on this matter. Therefore, I would like to refrain from answering your question at this time.
Last is Satomi-san of Asahi Shimbun. That will be the last question. Last question, please. Minister, I have more questions. Then I'd like to ask, this is Satomi of Asahi Shimbun. I'd like to ask another question regard to China and South Korea. And Ishiba Prime Minister is very new. However, some of the LDP parliament members that hold that your administration is the China fail, and also very friendly to South Korea as well. And Prime Minister Iwaya, you've criticized in the LDP in regard to the South Korean leader irradiation issues when you were the defense minister. So, in order to construct a relationship with China and South Korea, how you're going to face domestic public opinion?
A part of parliamentarian. Whom did you mean by that? Please tell me later. About pro-China, pro-Korea cabinet. You said that some of the parliamentarians are making a point about it. But as I see it, Japanese diplomacy should not say that we are anti-China nor the anti-Korea, because if we say that, no diplomacy would stand. When I was a defense minister, there was an incident of a radar locking, but this is something which should never happen. But by resolving and overcoming these kind of pending issues, we looked into the future and working toward building a good, trusting relationship between our counterpart country. And with this, we had addressed this issue because that would benefit not only bilaterally but throughout all the countries in this region between Japan and ROK. As I said, I will work even harder to strengthen Japan-Korea relationship, and with China, dialogue will continue so that a constructive and stable, mutually beneficial relationship can be built. That is for the benefit of two countries as well as for entire Asia and for the benefit of the rest of the world. That's my firm belief based on which I will conduct my diplomacy.
Do you have more time? Just one last question. I've been raising hand for a long period of time. Now, Hong Kong Phoenix TV, I am the correspondent. I am Lee. And regarding China, Prime Minister Shiba mentioned in his article that establishing Asia version of NATO in order to contain China and deterrence against China. And your minister, you said that it is not an imminent issue to be tackled at this moment. However, yesterday at the press conference of Prime Minister Ishiba, that he will be very strenuous to trying to establish that institution. And what is the objective of deterrence of China? From the foreign minister, I'd like to ask your explanation. And also for the diplomacy to China, you are choosing the strategic mutually beneficial relations and also trying to establish the stable relations. However, Prime Minister Kishida's policy, is it going to be continued, or there going to be a new policy or different color of Prime Minister Ishiba? Are there any characteristics in the diplomacy?
So first of all, vis-a-vis China, we will emphasize the importance of dialogue and deterrence. Two of them will be needed. In this East Asia region, the attempt to change the status quo unilaterally is something that we are observing for real. Therefore, we hope to make a mechanism which can deter that. However, on the other hand, the dialogue will continue patiently so that a trusting relationship can be built. As much as possible, tension will be not heightened. So dialogue and deterrence is not contradictory to each other. It can be done at the same time. And for that to happen, I will work hard. Thank you.
The official appointments, and therefore we'd like to conclude the press conference today. Perhaps one last question. Thank you. This is Harakawa of Sunday newspaper. In regard to North Korea, there were abductions of Japanese, and I'd like to ask your stance. Now, Prime Minister Ishiba, in the earlier LDP election, and then in Tokyo and Pyongyang, there should be liaison office to be established, and he has indicated such ideas during the campaign. Now, is it going to be the diplomatic policy of Ishiba administration? Is it okay to understand that way? And if that is the case, the liaison office Japan may establish in Pyongyang. What is the size and business operation, and by when are you going to establish the office? If you could answer to that, thank you.
About the abduction issue, the resolution of the issue, of course, this is one of the top priority issue under Ishiba administration. This is something that we would address very steadily and firmly. You have mentioned about the liaison office. I think that's one of the ideas or one of the approaches available or conceivable. That was a situation. So after the formation of Ishiba administration, what exactly will be its approach and what will be realistic and most effective response? This is something that whole of the government will take consideration and think about it. Also, it's not something which have been laid firm. Every method and every measures will be considered.
This concludes press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I ask for your continued guidances and cooperation. Thank you.